Hello, and welcome to Tricksters Across Cultures. We're the teen reps from Grayson Branch. I'm Pam.
I'm Rob.
I'm Bradley.
And I'm Catherine. Since the phrase trick or treat may be on some people's minds this time of year, we're going to show some love to those characters you maybe love to kind of hate, Tricksters. Now, I gotta warn you, we didn't sanitize these stories as much as we normally do, so things are gonna get messy. Also, at the end, we're going to show you how to make this tricky treat, salad cake. Guys, I think this counts as my vegetable serving for the day.
It most certainly does not. Eat a carrot.
Seaweed or no deal?
Deal.
You're so weird.
I try. So, Tricksters. They're the characters who look at society's rules kind of like my cats look at a water glass on a table. Something fun to break. Sometimes they're the side characters, sometimes they're the protagonists, and sometimes they're the villains. However they appear, they're typically highly intelligent characters who use their wits to dream up elaborate pranks. They frequently know secrets or have hidden skills. Some tricksters play pranks just because they can, and some play pranks to show where society might be broken. They do it as social commentary. Looking at all of these characters, we can tell that they have 6 distinct characteristics.
They are fundamentally ambiguous and or anomalous, a deceiver or trick player, a shapeshifter, master of disguise, a situation inverter, a messenger or imitator of the gods, and a sacred be-cooler.
Which is to say they can create from whatever's available. They also come in 3 distinct flavors, categories.
Deity or spirit, human, or anthropomorphization.
And oh, you've got some examples for you, starting with Nanzi.
Nanzi is a figure that originates in folklore from Ghana. He's a trickster figure, often trying to get his way through tricks or as the central figure in a cautionary tale. He's an anthropomorphized trickster, which means he's sometimes depicted as a talking spider, as someone with a spider body and a human head, or even as a human with spider features. His form, however, is not what makes him a trickster. Good evening, and welcome to this afternoon's edition of GRA News. I'm your host, Hugh Jadork.
And I'm Pam. We've got a very special guest today. Anowa Nanzi, in your own words, what happened between you and Tiger?
Oh, it started out as an awesome day fishing. Man, you should have seen the catch I got. But then this dude, Tiger, wanted to know what I had in my baskets, and I didn't really want to tell him because they were my fish.
We've got Tiger today with us too, and Tiger, you're looking a little peaky. Are you okay?
I'm good, I think, but I'm really mad about the stunt Nanzi pulled today.
And Tiger, from your perspective, what happened?
Nanzi straight up lied to me. He said he didn't have any fish.
How do you know he lied?
Because I followed him. He went and sat under a tree and pulled out all these fish he caught.
And Tiger, what did you do next?
I asked him for some.
No, he made me give all of them to him, and then he ate them. All I had left was the bones.
Do you have anything to say in your defense, Tiger? You know, stalking and coercion, that's pretty serious.
Oh no, don't you pin this on me without hearing the rest of it. So we kept walking together, and he points out this awesome looking fruit, right? It makes more sense for him to climb the tree, so I tell him to do it.
And did you give them the option to say no?
No, he did not. And then I had to climb that tree, and he wasn't even going to share the fruit with me either.
I should have just climbed the tree myself.
Did you do something after you were in the tree, Nanzi?
I told him he had lice in his fur.
And did he have lice in his fur, Nanzi?
Nobody believed me because I was directly above him.
What did you do after hearing you had lice in your fur, Tiger?
I asked him to catch the bugs. Nobody likes lice.
No, he told me to catch them. And I even had him lean against the tree to make it easier on him.
But Tiger didn't have any lice, so what were you doing while you were looking for lice?
Oh, I petted and combed through his fur until he fell asleep. Then I tied him to the tree by his fur.
That wasn't very nice.
Well, it was payback for him bullying me and eating my fish. A perfectly harmless prank.
And then what happened?
I woke him up, told him he didn't have any lice, but he didn't believe me and he couldn't attack me because he was a little, tied up.
Then you made fun of me.
Served you right. It's not like you wouldn't get a free eventually.
Unfortunately, and you heard it from us first, a hunter came along, found Tiger tied up to the tree and killed him. Sorry. Best work on that afterlife thing. And that's all we have time for today. Next time on GRA News, Jack, lovable neighbor or unrepentant thief?
Next up, Coyote, an ambiguous anthropomorphic trickster from multiple Native American mythologies, and the Navajo story, Coyote and the Giant.
So once upon a time, there was this giant who would hunt and eat children. And it caught Coyote's attention. Never a good thing.
Coyote called over to the giant and invited him for a sweat bath. The giant didn't understand why he needed a sweat bath, and this led to trick number 1.
I'll get rid of your parasites.
The giant was quite alarmed by the thought of parasites and believed him. That was mistake number 1.
He agreed to the sweat bath and went with Coyote. Once they found a nice place to set up, it came time for trick number 2.
You build the fire, I'll build the sweat house.
Not an obvious trick, but while the clumsy giant built the fire, Coyote hid a deer leg in the sweat house. We'll save that for later. But allowing himself to be distracted was the giant's second mistake.
And they both went into the sweat house and sat there for quite a while. Then Coyote embarked on his third trick.
Hey, drink this bitter tea. It's good for you.
At least this time the giant questioned him about it. He wanted to be able to catch all the human children who were able to outrun him. Then trick number 4 happened.
You just can't keep up because you're clumsy. I can outrun anything in the forest or desert, and it's all because I take sweat baths and drink herbal tea.
The giant believed him, and he drank the tea.
Mistake number 3.
Eventually, due to the herbal concoction and the heat, the giant was feeling very ill when he left the sweat house, and it was time for trick number 5.
Just throw up in this dish and you'll see those parasites.
The giant did, which was mistake number 4. Coyote followed suit. But the giant didn't have any parasites. Coyote did. So Coyote swapped dishes while the giant's eyes were still closed.
Now convinced that he had parasites, the giant willingly went back into the sweat house with Coyote, his 5th mistake. And then it was time for trick number 6.
I'm going to perform a miracle. I'm going to break my leg, then heal it to make it better than ever.
Only the leg he broke wasn't his own. Remember that deer leg we said from earlier? He broke that. And then he spat on his own leg while chanting as part of a healing ritual.
So when he asked the giant to feel his broken leg, the giant felt the deer leg. And when it was time to confirm the healing, the giant felt Coyote's leg. It was dark, and the giant couldn't tell that there was a swap. Mistake number 6.
The giant asked how such a miracle could happen. Mistake number 7.
Give me your leg and I'll show you.
For mistake and trick number 8, the giant did. And Coyote, to hopefully no one's surprise, broke it. Then he had the giant spit on it to heal it. It, of course, didn't heal, and the giant kept spitting on it until his mouth went dry. Coyote was less than helpful when the giant asked why the magic wasn't working.
Just keep spitting on it. Bye.
The giant's broken leg never healed right, and he wasn't able to catch and eat a child again.
In this case, Coyote was a very beneficial trickster. His actions, done by deception and the promise of hidden knowledge, safeguarded children who were being hunted. But since tricksters are so changeable, Coyote can also be a very bad figure. That paradox is very common in Native American trickster tales since tricksters were meant to embrace the full range of life.
Which brings us to my main man, Loki. Oh, come on, put those down.
Oh,
Come on.
We're not talking about that Loki. We're talking about the real one, the one MCU Loki is very loosely based on. You know, the actual, literal Norse god.
So what about him?
Thanks to the MCU, he has gotten more press lately, and so really sticks out in your mind as one of the world's major tricksters. He's particularly known for his capriciousness, shape-shifting ability, and his prophesied role in bringing about Ragnarok.
His highlight, though some might call it a low light, includes being captured by the giant Thiazi, kidnapping the goddess Idun to keep the giant from eating him, then rescuing her back to keep the Aesir, the Norse gods, from killing him.
and being the father of the death goddess Hel. 1L. The father of the father of Jormungand, the world serpent that will go on to kill Thor at Ragnarok. Fenrir, the wolf who will go on to kill Odin during Ragnarok, and Fyr's hand. Loki is also the mother, yes, the mother of Sleipnir, Odin's horse. It's a long story, shape-shifting. He was trying to rip off a couple of giants, but at least he gets presents on Mother and Father's Day.
Also, the forging of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. That involves Loki cutting off all of Sif's, Thor's wife's, hair, and then trying to make amends. Ultimately, the Norse gods gain 6 treasures from his penance. Mjolnir and new hair for Sif included, and Loki gets his mouth sewn shut for telling lies and playing tricks, and for annoying the dwarves making the treasures.
But Loki's stories didn't stop with the prose Edda. There's some in folklore, my favorite being a Faroese ballad called Loka Teitur, where a farmer loses a bet with a giant and the farmer's son is demanded as payment. The farmer calls first upon Odin and then upon Honir for help, but neither god is able to successfully hide the child. But Loki plays some tricks on the giant, ultimately killing him, and saves the child. He just happens to use cunning and creative problem solving rather than the more honorable direct methods the other 2 gods use.
And the Loki stories continue to evolve when Marvel Comics added Loki and Thor as superheroes into their universe, which led to...
Oh, really? Really? You just had to do it again. Sure, the timing was better this time, but really?
Hey, Loki's got a very important role as one of the major tricksters in popular culture. If you ask someone to name a trickster, I bet they would say Loki, and I bet they would know him from the MCU.
Modern tricksters are characters pulled from popular culture, meaning some book characters are still valid, but most come from video games, TV shows, and movies. Some of these are Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Joker from DC Comics and movies, Q from the Star Trek universe, the Doctor from Doctor Who, and Bugs Bunny from Looney Tunes.
Wait, the Doctor's a trickster? How's the Doctor a trickster?
Situation inverter, becular, and deceiver. Remember rule number 1? The Doctor always lies. They can also be ambiguous or be likely to play tricks. It really just depends on which incarnation we're talking about.
Some modern tricksters can encourage oppressed members of society. Tricksters who use situation inversion frequently serve to show someone with less power being able to overcome someone with considerably more. For example, in the cartoon Coyote and Roadrunner, Coyote has the time and means to create elaborate traps for Roadrunner, but the bird always manages to turn the trap back on its creator despite having no real tools of his own.
Modern tricksters vary widely, some, like the Doctor, being very obviously a good character, no matter what the incarnation, while the Joker has practically no redeeming qualities. This still matches with tricksters being able to be a hero or a villain.
But where does all that leave us as a society? Why are tricksters such prevalent characters, and why are they so important to us? After all, we're introduced to them as children through fairy tales like Jack and the Beanstalk, and then through the cartoons that we watched, and continue to love them now that we're adults. Loki and Aang and the Doctor.
Tricksters are an archetype for a reason. They appeal to our impish nature or to the side of us that is not satisfied with a monotonous 9-to-5 existence. They do what we wish we could. They defy society's expectations and restrictions, whether to reach their own goals or because society is cruel or unjust. Some trickster characters invite us to dream about a brighter world, one that's freer and where you can succeed despite the deck being stacked against you.
But some tricksters are cautionary tales, showing us the consequences of being unwise or manipulating the wrong situation to benefit themselves. They show us the price of arrogance and frequently get caught up in the fallout of their own actions. Movie Loki and myth Loki are always in trouble, and it's generally their fault.
Tricksters who are cautionary tales appear in real life too. You have seen the mean-spirited comments on message boards and social media. Internet trolls who act as bullies qualify as tricksters, and so do the trolls who counter or redirect them.
Ultimately, tricksters are a symbol of the individual's call to action, a reminder of the responsibility of that action, and a warning of the consequences should the individual misuse their power.
And that's all the time we have, and believe me, we barely scratched the surface. You could write a dissertation on tricksters and still not cover everything. You've been awesome if you've watched this far in the video. I hope you had fun, maybe had a few laughs. Next up, I'll show you how to make a cake that looks like a Caesar salad. So as promised, I'm going to show you how to make a salad cake. Now, I got the recipe I used off of Food Network. I literally Googled salad cake recipe and it was the first option. So today we're making a Caesar salad. I did not make it from scratch. I actually used a baking mix and I used a French vanilla one. You want to make sure it's a yellow sponge. After it's baked, you cut it to be able to fit inside your bowl, like so. And you also, after it's cut, you can use these spare pieces to make your croutons, which we're going to save for later. And you can use the extras to coat into the bottom of the bowl to just kind of give it some fluff. First thing we're going to do is we're going to have to start icing this puppy. You can also use store-bought frosting for this, and we're going to go ahead and get this open. And you're going to want a nice white frosting, so that could be vanilla, that could be whipped cream, but really you don't want any brown color. So you gently frost this, and you really don't want to be too hard on the crumb, especially if it's not a frozen cake. Otherwise it'll just start shredding like we can see here. And you can just kind of rotate the plate. Alright, after you've hit this point, this cake is already cut approximately in half. We're going to pick it up, flip it over, and make the first 2 layers of our cake. Then we're going to frost this half. So we're going to flip it over again. And at this point, we now have a 3-tiered cake in our bowl. We're going to go ahead and frost this upper tier as best we can. It came off the bowl a little crumbly, so it's going to be pretty resistant to frosting. Next up, you need to add your lettuce. Now your lettuce are 3 sheets of sugar wafer paper painted green. The recipe I told you about is going to tell you how to make these. What you do after they're made is, well, wafer paper can tear. So you make a nice little tear and just start putting it onto the top of your cake. Kind of like if you're shredding up a piece of iceberg lettuce or anything else. For normal salad, you just tear good little chunks and just keep going. It doesn't have to be pretty, and when you paint it, you also don't have to be making a precise color. I've never ever actually seen a piece of lettuce that is one solid color, and so your wafer paper can be marbled and that is okay. And what we're going for as we place these is you don't really want any of the cake or the frosting showing. So you're trying to cover as much as you can. And after we really have that first layer, we also are going to kind of go for some 3D effects too. Now it does depend on how well your wafer paper wants to behave. It might be okay with it being 3D, or sometimes it might just fall flat. At this point, it's mostly covered, so I'm going to try to create some 3D effects with my strips. You might have some wafer paper left, and that is absolutely okay. Alright, now that we've filled our bowl with what looks like lettuce, we're going to have to add some croutons. Now these are just the pieces of the cake that we cut off that we roasted in a toaster oven, though you can also use your broiler at home with your oven, until a nice golden brown. And you just scatter them gently on the top of your cake. I mean salad. Once again, you don't have to use all of them, but let's face it, croutons are fun, crunchy things, and they're lots of fun to eat. Alright, I think that's enough croutons. Well, a Caesar salad would not be complete without cheese. Now this is just grated white chocolate that we're just going to sprinkle on top right here. All right. That's looking like a salad, I think. There you have it. This is how you make a salad cake. And remember, if you want the actual recipe, just Google search salad cake recipe, choose the first option. It'll be the Food Network Caesar salad cake recipe. Have a good one.